We live in a world of
alien
hypotheticals, especially when it comes to this next lot on. What are you doing?
Oh, the hurling power rankings, of course. Really shot myself in the foot by dissing hypotheticals here, because, of course, the hypothetical situation of if we ranked Ireland's hurling counties, where would they currently sit? We're going to do a top 10 at regular intervals, I think, during the National Hurling League this year. Coming in at number 10, the best of the rest, it's Laois, who, of course, had a big win against Dublin last year. And I think it's Dublin's loss to Laois last year, which kind of has them at the bottom of the powerful nine. Can we call them that? The powerful nine hurling counties? They're in at number 9. In at number 8 is Galway. Not a great couple of years for Galway hurling. You throw in the fact that they didn't even make it out of their Leinster group last year, and a fairly turmoil-filled off-season means that they go into the season with their tail between their legs, but potential big move for them to go up the rankings over the next couple of weeks. And
number 8 is Galway.
Yeah, number 8 is Galway. I'm trying to actually make a case for them ahead of anybody else. And
Waterford.
I had them ahead of Waterford.
Yes.
And then I looked at how Waterford started the season. They look a far more impressive side at the moment, trending upwards. And I would actually give them a better chance of rising higher than Galway at the moment, which I know is a big statement about a team filled with superstars like Galway are. At the start of last season, for example,
Galway would have been second.
Possibly first. I would have actually said at the start of the National League, before a ball was pucked.
Ahead of Limerick.
Ahead of Limerick. Just because of how close they came in the 18 All-Ireland final, back with a vengeance, all that sort of thing, and they obviously flattered.
You're massively overreacting to one bad season from Galway.
I'm massively overreacting to one bad season from Galway.
Yes.
And a bad off-season. I don't think it's an overreaction. I think if you fail to get out of a Leinster group and one of the people who beat you gets beaten by Laois the next week, I don't think that's an overreaction.
I mean, look.
I think that this is what you're primed for. This is what you go in to hit your peak in. Like we saw the Munster equivalent last year, obviously.
Dublin collapsed against Laois, but they're further ahead than Laois. They will beat Laois this year if they play in the championship, more than likely. And
a team that is susceptible to getting beaten by Laois finishes ahead of you in the Leinster championship.
Yeah, but Galway would have beaten Laois. Galway would have annihilated Laois. Galway would have put it up to any.
Well, we don't know that because they finished behind Dublin, and Dublin got beaten by Laois. So this is what we're judging it on.
Okay. Look, you're saying that Galway are the 8th best team in the country.
You're a big fan of hypotheticals on a Tuesday morning. This, if VAR had ruled out. Had not ruled out Chelsea's goals. If Galway had actually beaten Dublin last year, if they had actually got through their Leinster group and finished ahead of them, we can do a hypothetical power rankings if you want. But I'm dealing in facts here and dealing in correct information that I have that I've seen in front of my eyes. Number 6, we've got Clare. All this talk so far, 3 wins from 3, but really the only team they've beaten so far is Wexford. I want to see a bit more from them. That was obviously a fairly narrative-filled encounter, I want to say, against Wexford. Perhaps a sideshow from what the hurling actually was. It was a great result for them, though, and we'll see where Wexford are in just a moment. I've got Cork in at number 5. Really disappointed with them against Kilkenny last year, but I think that was more of an aberration than we actually let on. And I think we've got Kingston back in this year, and I think they will actually rise this year. I would have them as outsiders, not outsiders, dark horses actually, for the All-Ireland. They've beaten Tip already this year. Number 4, Kilkenny. In my opinion, overachieved last year, getting to the All-Ireland final, but that's the Cody effect for you.
So hang on, if they overachieved, why are they in the top 4 teams in the country?
Because if they didn't overachieve getting to the final, they'd be top 2. They overachieved.
So they were semi-finalists, they won a semi-final.
They 100% deserve to be in the semi-final after beating Cork. They were better than Cork last year, and I think at this moment they still have an edge on them.
They're still better than Cork?
Just about. Number 3 is Wexford, the could have, should have, would have team of 2019. Obviously, heartbreak for them. Felt that they might have been in with a shout of winning the All-Ireland had they actually got through that titanic semi-final against Tip. Didn't happen for them. Tip, though, are number 2. Obviously, All-Ireland champions, but far from disputed. Undisputed, I should say. Very, very far from undisputed. And nowhere close to perfect at times this year. Obviously, that comeback defeat to Limerick, you're already thinking to yourself, there are chinks in the armour here. And at number 1, Limerick, best team in the country right now. John Kiley gave him a stern telling off all winter long and at half-time that Limerick game and in that Tipperary game. And they're back is what I'm saying for Limerick.
So, Limerick are going to win this year's All-Ireland.
We're getting into predictions now. I think right now, if the All-Ireland final was played right now, Limerick would win it.
All right.
Where Meath, says someone in my ear, well, probably around 14, 15, 16 maybe? I don't know. We'll have to Meath PRO onto us again. But no, Limerick, best team in the country right now.
Are you concerned about Wexford having had their chance and blown it? Are they a team who were at the end of a cycle with Davy Fitzgerald, or has the cycle continued?
I think what we saw on Sunday, and league is league, but I think that cycle is far from over. I think as long as Davy is there, he'll put everything into it. The players clearly want him. They're desperate for him to come back. And he's in one last crack territory. This is not a sort of waning away of the kind of lust he has for...
Does one last crack work, or is it not exactly the point that Brian Kerr was making a little bit earlier on the show when he was talking about Mick McCarthy? It's like, you're not really the manager I need to impress. Is it different somehow in GAA, where one last crack, you're allowed to say, this is my last spin?
But he hasn't said that, has he?
No, but like everybody has that. You're saying it, right? Why are you saying it?
Well, I would say privately in the camp it's not one. I think the Wexford cause is a bit more than one last crack. And in fairness, I think that the Irish football team should probably get over the fact that you don't need to impress Mick McCarthy after the summer. I think there's a Euros on the line, just like there is an All-Ireland Championship on the line for this Wexford team.
A Euros in Dublin.
Exactly.
Two of your home
that should be, it shouldn't matter who or how long a contract is bestowed upon your manager for. This is what you're fighting for right now. That is the Euros for Ireland. It is the All-Ireland for Wexford. 100% contender. And I think Davy Fitz is the right man for that. He looks like he still has it going into this year. And you saw the performance at the weekend. If they could play Kilkenny every week, they would be number one in the hurling power rankings.
Waterford didn't even have the opportunity to play Laois in last year's championship. Who knows what might have happened if they had the responsibility of playing Laois. They were so bad. A team in full-blown crisis, and yet they're ahead of both Galway and Dublin.
Yeah.
On the basis of?
Oh, the encouraging signs we've seen already in this league. New management can often sway the eye of somebody who ranks teams in power rankings, and consider me swayed. Consider me on the bandwagon that Waterford are going to have a much better year this year. We might see something of an upset in Munster, but even calling it an upset that Waterford would get out of the Munster Hurling Championship group is probably overstating things, given the quality of the
Okay, so who's coming out of the Munster Championship group? As for your power rankings, it's Limerick and Tip.
Well, as for my power rankings, it's Limerick, Tip, Cork.
So Clare, despite the fact that Tony Kelly might be the hurler of the year, isn't going to make it.
Well, they didn't make it last year, did they?
Well, he didn't have as good a season last year, did he?
I thought he was very impressive the year before, and Clare were very, very unlucky not to make an All-Ireland final the year before. And you could make an argument that they had one of the best collections of forwards.
So you should have them higher up.
The country. No, I'm not saying. I'm just saying.
Why are they behind Cork at the moment?
Why are Clare behind Cork?
Yeah.
I think it's probably to do with last year. There's a bit of 2019 coming into that.
Okay, so last year matters, but Limerick are ahead of Tip.
Last year isn't it's not the entire one-dimensional thing. There are different strands to the power rankings here.
Explain that. What does your Warrior score make a big difference?
Warrior score makes a huge difference.
What is
whether or not I believe in the actual new management, if there's a management change going into 2019, that would make a big difference, or into 2020, that would make a big difference for any county. Now Cork have that, Clare also happen to have that. You can judge a little bit into the league performances, but it has to be...
Galway have that.
But it has to be in terms of what sort of environment you're playing in the league. Like, I would read a lot into, for example, Tip Limerick on the first day of the season. I think that was a bit of a marker laid down from Limerick. I would read a lot into Wexford Kilkenny at the weekend, because Davy hates Kilkenny. Hate is probably a strong word. In fairness, maybe you could read a lot more into Wexford against Clare, and perhaps Clare could be higher as a result of that.
And what do Kilkenny need to do to move up?
Good question. I think that Kilkenny could be in a bit of a... If they go out and win the league, for example, if they can get another crack at Wexford and beat them, if they can end that sort of hoodoo over their head a little bit, I think they can move up. I think that if they go out and actually win the Leinster Championship this year, I think they'll move up. If they get back to a Leinster final, or back to an All-Ireland final this year, I think 100% they've moved up, and they will have proved people wrong to say that they didn't exactly deserve to be there last year. That they didn't deserve to be there is probably the wrong take, though, because they did in all their individual games, but I think they overachieved a slight bit on being there.
If your power rankings are borne out over the course of the rest of the summer, we're in for a vintage. 2020 is going to be one of those defining, people look back on in years to come and go, oh, what an amazing hurling championship that was. For that to happen, does somebody other than Kilkenny, Tipperary, or even Cork to a lesser degree have to win the All-Ireland this year?
What do you mean?
For it to be a great year.
No, not necessarily. Would it not be a great year if Brian Cody won an All-Ireland again?
I suppose you're from Kerry, so it's only a great year whenever Kerry win. You don't have this. You don't understand that the great footballing decade was the one where it was largely barren for Kerry. the greatest team of the noughties was the team who beat Kerry. You forget all these things, I suppose. So you have a natural bias towards the superpowers. I forgot about that.
You're the person who said that you like to see kind of records tumble. You were a big fan of that Kilkenny team when they were going for the 5 in a row, and you cried your eyes out when.
But nobody says they're.
Like, would you not like to?
Well, that was an amazing game because it was like.
Would you not like to see Brian Cody back as a All-Ireland winning coach and manager, and ride off to the sunset with Liam McCarthy under his arm?
Is it better if Wexford win for the game?
Of course it would. Wexford winning the All-Ireland this year is the best story for the All-Ireland Hurling Championship. Limerick to a lesser degree because they won it only a couple of years ago. But I think that there would be a great story around Brian Cody if he managed to take this Kilkenny team back to the All-Ireland. Now, we talk about it as if it's some sort of pipe dream / fairy tale, when in actual fact they have the best hurler in the country. So, and an incredible squad actually, an excellent squad. It's not the best squad in the country, I would say.
So TJ's hurler of the year?
No, I don't think TJ's going to be hurler of the year.
Who's going to be hurler of the year?
It's a good question. Like, I'd like to... Let's go with TJ.